Let me ask you something. What if the most exciting racing in cycling right now isn't happening on the men's peloton, but in the shadows of the Tour de France Femmes? I know it sounds wild, but hear me out. This year's women's race didn't just outshine the men's. It redefined what we think about competition, rivalry, and even the soul of the sport itself. And at the center of it all was Demi Vollering, who didn't just win the race, she turned a potential disaster into a moment of unity. But let's unpack this. Because what happened on those final stages in Nice wasn't just about bikes and jerseys. It was about power dynamics, generational divides, and the messy, beautiful human side of sports. Here's the thing, Vollering's second Tour de France Femmes win wasn't just a victory. It was a statement. She faced a firestorm after Kasia Niewiadoma publicly berated her young teammate, Celia Jerry. Now, I've seen my fair share of athlete drama, but this was a full-blown ethical crisis. Vollering didn't just stay silent. She stood up, called out the toxicity, and then, in one of the most poetic moments I've ever seen, she and Niewiadoma had a heart-to-heart on the bike. Can you imagine? Two rivals mid-race, resolving their differences with a chat? It's not just sportsmanship, it's a masterclass in emotional intelligence. And here's the kicker. Vollering's not just a rider. She's a voice for the next generation, and she used this moment to say, "This is how we treat each other." Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Tadej Pogačar, the man who's dominated the men's tour so thoroughly that even his rivals are questioning their purpose. But here's what's fascinating. Vollering's 2026 season was arguably more impressive than Pogačar's. She won the Giro, the Tour, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the Tour of Flanders, and Flèche Wallonne. That's not just stacking up titles, it's rewriting the narrative about women's cycling. And yet, how many of you have heard her name mentioned in the same breath as Pogačar? That's the problem. We still treat women's achievements as secondary, even when they're objectively better. But the Tour de France Femmes is changing that. It's not just a race, it's a cultural shift. And the fact that Pogačar himself is a vocal supporter? That's not just ironic. It's revolutionary. But let's not ignore the chaos. Marlen Reusser's crash on Col d'Huez was heartbreaking. She started the day third, only to lose everything in a split-second mistake. It's a reminder that in cycling, even the slightest misstep can rewrite the story. And yet, the women's race kept its edge. Unlike the men's tour, which was effectively decided by stage 6, the women's race stayed a mystery until the final climb.
Why?
Because the women's peloton isn't just about speed, it's about suspense. When Pogačar dominates the men's race, we talk about second place. But in the women's race, every position is a story. That's the magic. It's raw, unpredictable, and deeply human. And then there's the doping scandal. The men's tour was plagued by midnight drug tests, accusations of unfairness, and a lingering shadow of suspicion. But here's what's wild. Pogačar himself shrugged it off, while the women's race continued to thrive. It's like the women's peloton said, "We're not here for the politics. We're here to race." And that's why the Tour de France Femmes is the future. It's not just about breaking barriers, it's about creating a new standard. A standard where the focus is on the riders, not the controversies. Where the drama is on the road, not in the press conferences. So, what does this mean for the future? Well, if the women's race keeps growing, we might see a world where the men's tour isn't the pinnacle of cycling. Imagine a time when the Tour de France Femmes gets the same global attention as its male counterpart. When sponsors fight to be part of the women's peloton. When young girls watch the race and think, "I can do that." That's not just possible, it's inevitable. And if you ask me, that's the most thrilling part of all.